MBWA. You know what that stands for?
Never be with alcohol?
Yeah. Are we filming?
Yep.
All right, sweet, let's do it.
Do it to it. Hey guys, Brett and Ryan back here with Green Screen talking about Made to Make It. The last few episodes we've talked about your vision and your values, and now it's time to talk about what those create.
Your culture, right? The people that are going with you. Unless you're by yourself, you're a solopreneur, which we're obviously not talking about this. We're talking about building something, a road. You have to have people. It's like the common thing about all businesses is they typically have people in them. So one of the things that I love about what you've built, Brett, is just the culture. I've heard it said about Ryonet a lot. I think from the inside you always look at it like, oh, our culture could always be better. But it's awesome to look at it from the outside, kind of observing what's the culture of Brett's company and how do you create that. So who's going with you?
Yeah, so I think, after creating our values, it was very important that we hire people that have the same values or that enjoy our values and wanted to be a part of our values.
You give them a test?
Yeah, everyone has to take a value test.
And it does not compute?
Yeah, no.
Like seriously, how do you really know that they fit your values? Because you can always say in an interview, yes,
yeah,
I have a passion for progress. I read it on your website.
Well, I think, you might have heard of going to interviews for the job that you want at some point in your life, and someone may have told you to dress for the job that you want. So I think that whenever we interview people, we can see, how they dress, like what they look like, and a lot of times, even though that's a little bit stereotypical, you can see what their interests are. You can tell someone that is really into art versus someone that is really into like accounting, right? You can tell that walking down the street. So
I mean, you work with your team way more than when you're with your family. 50 hours a week, 40 hours a week, whatever it is, it's a lot of time. We spend the most time in our lives with the people that we work with. So that you just, after one interview, you just hire them. Go?
Yeah.
No?
I totally didn't understand what you just said.
Right? After one interview, you just hire them?
No, so like, kind of go into that, like you're going to look at their resume first, right? They fill out an application, the first part.
I hate looking at resumes.
Yeah, the first part of that.
You actually look at resumes?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, it's not my job, but like I do look at them, and there's, you can look at places that people worked and start to gauge, what they have learned by. There's a lot of companies that I've studied. One of the companies that I love that I've read the book about is the Container Store. The Container Store hires very specific people, and what you realize is they have developed their own culture by that. And I remember we had a girl that applied to us that had worked at the Container Store previously, and I was almost ready to hire her without ever meeting her because I knew the quality of people that the Container Store hires.
Absolutely, totally. The companies that you look up for, somebody like Starbucks is one of the typically people that are at Starbucks have great attitudes. They're excited because they're jacked up on coffee all day long. Yeah. Everyone that we've hired from Starbucks has been amazing, and because I know the type of people they hire,
I think we actually had this conversation once talking about, Ryan and I went to a Starbucks one morning as we were headed to go to a conference, and we were talking about how happy everybody in that Starbucks was. And that's because they have a culture. But what I did when I got home from that trip was I bought a new coffee machine because I was like, man, they're so pumped up. Maybe if all of our employees drink coffee all day, they'll be pumped up too.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt, and they're selling liquid gold pretty much, so that also doesn't hurt.
How much coffee have you had?
This is my fourth cup today. It was traveled a lot yesterday, so
yeah.
A lot of flying. You want any coffee?
No, I'm good. I don't
you want to take that pill?
No, oh my gosh.
The one thing about hiring that I think is important, and I know that you guys do this, is you throw them on press, right?
In the hiring process, I'll say like, the first thing that happens when you're talking to person, it's just water. It's just on water so far.
When you're talking to person?
when you're in the interview process and you're sitting down talking to the person, you have to think about the fact that you are going to talk to this person a lot. It's not just 5 minutes a day, it is all day long, every day. And it needs to be someone that you can have a real conversation with, someone that understands what you're saying and then communicates well back to you. And so those are the first things that I notice in the hiring process, inside of that interview, is thinking like, can I talk to this person? Because there are people that come in for interviews every once in a while, and 5 minutes into the interview, I already know we're not going to hire them because I know it's not someone that I will communicate well with.
So they passed the first interview. I know do you guys do trials? Do you have them print?
Yes.
I know, you know.
When there is the availability, we will get the people on press. We will, especially, there are certain roles that we really want to make sure people get in and work with other people in our company. Especially when we're hiring for any sort of supervisor or management role, we are putting them in with the people that they are going to be supervising to make sure that the people that they're going to be supervising respect that person. Because if that person goes back there and starts acting all crazy, the people that work for us are not going to like that.
Yeah, one rule, first rule of Bandcamp, no. First rule of hiring, if you're hiring somebody's boss, is let them make the hiring decision.
Right.
You know, when I hired Roger, the people that made the hiring decision, Brandon doesn't work directly with Roger anymore, but it was Brandon and Sean who I was reporting to me. I was like, if you guys want to work with Roger, it's going to be your choice. It's not going to be my choice. Whether I like him or not, it's your choice. Because he's going to be your boss. And the other thing that, I mean, it's really hard, especially when you're hiring for management positions, to how do you try that person? I wish it was as easy as sports. I wish you just go out, like, watch them play the game, play with them. And I think for some production positions, I think that's pretty easy to do. But traveling with somebody is like really good. Like the first time, like me and like literally the first trip was like we went to a trade show, but we flew on a red eye, and then we went and visited shops 2 days before the trade show. So you get to know a lot about the person, what they were willing to do, what they weren't willing to do before you even start actually working with them.
One thing for us, like our culture that we've built is heavily based around music. A lot of the people that work for us were in bands, are still in bands, love music, love going to concerts. And that fits perfectly because our niche, which we will talk about in a later episode, happens to be heavy in music, right? So people get excited about the projects we're working on because they might be for their favorite bands. But if we're sitting in an interview and we're asking about someone's hobbies and they say that they're a musician, well, we know that they're going to be able to communicate well with the other people that are working for us because musicians just figure out a way to communicate well together, not only through speech and through what they're talking about, but just body language and those types of things. If you've ever been in a band, you know that you have to be thinking about what this guy's about to do in the song so that you can do it too. And so a lot of times those people jive well together, you know. So those are things that we look at in the interview process to make sure that we are hiring specifically for our culture and making sure that people communicate well.
So once your culture's set up and you start to hire people, do you think it's important to set a structure to it, like an organizational chart? We talked about that. This is a good conversation because I think Ryonet's probably had like 18 different org charts.
Yeah. So I think that it is extremely important in any organization for everyone to know who the leader is. And it's also extremely important for every person there to know, even though that there's this one leader at the top, also who do I report to? Who is my boss? Like, it's like an office space when 5 different people come up to the guy and tell him what to do. It's like, who is my boss? Like, that's super annoying, right?
Yeah.
I want to be able to walk up to any of the employees at my company at any time and be able to say, like, or ask the question, who is your boss? And have them be able to give me an accurate response. And so I think org charts are important. I think that people try to get really, really fancy with their org charts. They like to make circles, or like
I've done that.
They put the boss at the bottom, or they put the boss at the side so that everyone feels equal. But at the end of the day, everyone needs to know who their leader is.
Yeah, so we went actually back, we did the circle thing. That was confusing. So it's this and this and this, and like we were all in pods, which was kind of cool. And then we did the upside down one, which is the bottom, and then the customer is at the top, which is kind of cool. but everyone got confused, you know, and then we did one sideways, which was probably the most confusing, which I thought was going to be cool because it was kind of like a football team, but then we were all trying to tackle the customer. That was that wasn't the best idea either. So we just went back to traditional org charts, and I think when we do org charts, it's more the role and then the person, so that because the role, the people might change, but it's the role that's important. You know, is it the marketing role, or is it the manufacturing, or whatever role it might be, the people underneath that role. So it's really clear.
I think the culture ultimately is defined by the leader. And so if we know who the leader is, that's a good thing. But it's the leader that uses terms like, we are doing this, not I am doing this and you guys are supporting me. You know, I know that Ryonet, you guys call everybody a team member because you're all part of the same team.
Yeah, I never wanted to be an employee.
Right, and so I think for us, like I had a friend that used to work at Coors, and they were talking about how Pete Coors just sits out with everybody else. He has an office, and when he sits in his office, his door is cracked open so that everyone can talk to him. And I think that's really important. I think that you go do things with your team. You go help them when they need help. You lead by example, right?
MBWA. You know what that stands for?
Never be with alcohol?
Maybe. Management by walking around?
Oh, MB.
Okay. MBWA. And that's something that I totally subscribe to. In fact, like, don't have an office for that particular reason, because I want to float. I want to work in marketing. This morning I was working in marketing, and I was working in sales, and I was upstairs, and then, you know, just walking around. You know, so it's like I never want to be in one place at one time, and it's really hard to close the doors when there are none. So, and I know your office is in the middle of everything.
Yeah, so I do have an office because I need a quiet place to think every once in a while, but I like what we do. I like printing t-shirts. I love our customers. I love the artwork. I love being around the people that we've hired to work at our company, and I think that is so important. There have been people in the past at our company that I did not enjoy working with. Maybe they got through the hiring process and months in they changed their attitude or something like that, and it made me not want to go to work.
Yeah, it's the worst.
And what I had to realize...
And they probably didn't want to go to work.
I think that they probably didn't want to go to work, and it also caused the people that worked around them to not want to go to work. And so that's another hard part about culture, is that once you define a culture and once you have a bunch of great people working with you, there can be one bad apple that will spoil the whole harvest.
What we did, the barrel, the harvest, the fun. So what we did is, I actually heard this from Tony Robbins. He was talking about how to come up with your ideal mate. And since I was married to Amanda and wasn't really looking for a wife, I was like, okay, I'm going to skip this chapter. But then I thought, like, okay, I'm actually spending more time with these team members than I am like my family at given times. So the whole exercise is asking yourself 3 questions. What do you want? What don't you want? And then what do you want to be to retain that person? So when you define it, and that actually, we did that before our values, and that helped create our values. Because when you define, like, okay, I want somebody that walks around with a spring in their step, you know, not, you know, like, I want somebody that is going to go the extra mile. They're going to come in early. They're going to stay late. I want somebody that treats a customer that buys a DIY kit the same way they treat a customer that buys 17 automatic presses from us. But the interesting question is, like, okay, so you got this team member, you got this partner, and it's ideal, but what do you have to be to keep them? Because it's not all about them, you know. It's a mutual. It's all about us. You know, we're the leaders. So I'm the leader. What do I have to be? What kind of company do I have to lead in order to keep these team members?
I think communication is huge. Communicating with everyone that works with you, and that is something that I am terrible at. I am just so bad at communication. So what I did was hire someone to work alongside me that is really good at communication. And so whenever we need to check the pulse on someone, I can ask him and say, like, hey, how are they doing? and he's already asked them how they're doing, or he already knows. And that's really great for me, so that I can know, like, do I need to go have a conversation with that person? Like, did something change, you know? It's also important, like, the leader of the company is an easy target and an easy person to dislike, just because no one really likes working, right? We all have to work because we need enough money to survive. And so what I always like tell my friends or tell people that work with us is, just choose the place that sucks the least, right? And
well, at the same time, but I don't think anyone's goal in life is to be a crappy employee, you know, or any boss's goal is to be an asshole. You know,
sure.
You know, wake up today like, I'm an asshole. You know, we're like, I'm gonna suck. You know, it might be number one goal. So I think we all want the same thing.
Sure. It's this amazing opportunity to grow your friendships, and there's something really special when your team comes together at a hard time, and they all work really hard together to make something happen. And when you guys all work really hard together and meet a goal, it's really exciting. It's like when the Astros won the World Series last year. What happened? The whole town of Houston came together, and they freak out, and people are high-fiving and hugging in the streets, you know? It's like when you can create something and you can move a mountain together, you feel good together and you have a good time together and you respect each other, and at the end of the day you can celebrate together. It's a really, really good feeling at the end of the day for everyone to go out and clink beers together and say, good job, we did it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and it can also be a great thing to really kind of help shift and get people on the same page. You know, if you're not winning, you know, what's the one thing that the team does when they're not winning? They get everyone offside. They get them on the same page again. And they get them communicating. They get them practicing together more versus, you know, just expecting them to go out in the field and perform. So I think culture is something that you can never take for granted. It's something that it's always, as a leader, you have to be working on, be aware of, be present with, and it's the thing that drives success. Successful companies have the culture that just continues to drive that.
I think it's important to remember that all of us have emotions. Everyone that we work with
has emulsions.
We have emulsion and we have emotions, and I think that we need to realize that we need to be sensitive to people's emotions. People have bad days. You know, someone is coming to work, you know, one day after breaking up with their girlfriend or something like that, and we need to be in tune with that stuff. As a leader of a company, you need to care about your people. And when they're going through hard things, you need to give them some grace or give them some time off or something like that so that they can deal with that stuff. And as a team, we are their family. We need to love them. We need to do what it takes to make them feel better and help them heal. So I know, you know, developing a culture like this, when I've had hard things happen in my life, I've had the people come up to me and say, Brett, go home, we got this. And that's a really good feeling too.
That's awesome. Well, good job with your culture, and it's something that hopefully you guys have learned a little bit about from the stories. I think what we're going to talk about next in the next episode is niche, so kind of taking that culture and driving into your customer base and attracting the same type of customers that lend yourself to your business.
Absolutely. Culture is much more than just the people working for you. Culture is the companies that you work with.
Yeah. Because you want to do business with people you like at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for watching.